Hello class! Today we will discuss about new topic entitled Developing Materials for the Development of Skills. Before we go on in our discussion, I will show you first random pictures and I want you to guess what they are doing. And after that, you're going to write your answer on a piece of paper and then you're going to take a picture of it, then send it to our group chat. Okay, are we clear? Okay, so here is the first picture. Second, the third, and lastly, the fourth. Do you all get it? Okay. Before we go further, let us first take a look at the learning objectives of this lesson. First, the students will discuss about the developing materials for the development of skills. And number two, the students will make their own strategies in developing their skills. For our learning outcome, at the end of this lesson, the student will differentiate skills development from learning strategies using icon-only Venn diagram. Let's go further. In this chapter, we will focus on developing materials for the four modes of communication, which are the listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And these are the pictures that I have shown you a while ago. These pictures typically refer to the four skills. We will first review the literature that tries to distinguish the concept of skill and of strategy, as the terms are still widely used, despite the fact that no agreement has been reached on what exactly they refer to. Rather than discussing each skill separately, we will take an integrated approach in our attempt to capture interconnected and fundamental elements that underlie all four skills and to discuss how materials could best help learners to listen, speak, read, and write. So, here we go. Let us talk first about the notion of skills. In this area, communicative approach challenge the existing views of language, learning and teaching, and the contrast was made between the linguistic competence and the communicative competence. Then, in traditional grammar-based approach, it says there that grammar or learning a language is usually meant learning or language knowledge by consciously studying words and grammar in the target language. On the other hand, the communicative approach focuses on the learners becoming able to use the target language for communication. Just for example, like common sense tells us that just because we have accumulated knowledge about tennis, it does not mean we can play tennis. We also need to acquire some kind of sensor, motor, cognitive, and strategic abilities to be able to play tennis. Likewise, in order to become able to listen, speak, read, and write in a target language, we also need to acquire the sensor, motor, cognitive, and strategic abilities necessary for using a language too. The notion of skills for language use, however, turned out to be rather elusive and difficult to define. It has been long discussed, and research in education, information processing, and psychology, but the use of the term, when examined closely, is varied and vague. So, we're going to talk these definitions of skills that the researchers have found. The first definition is this: skill is an acquired ability to perform an activity well, usually one that is made up of a number of coordinated processes. Then, the second one is integrated sets of behavior that are learned through practice. They are made up of individual components that may be learned separately and that come together as whole to constitute skilled performance. Then the last definition is this: skill as an actions or behaviors derives from behavioral learning theories. Let's think about it. Which one are you going to choose? The skilled and ability which possess internally, or the other one which is behavior or action that is externally observable? If we chose the former one, we are dealing with mental or construct. It is about theoretical and hypothetical idea or substance containing various conceptual elements that is difficult to observe or measure. These days, we heard about this list of skills like problem solving skills, critical thinking skills, or life skills. So the question is, what are they and what do they consist of? As mental constructs are not amenable to direct inspections, researchers have conducted their investigation using different proofs like verbal protocols, statistical factor analysis of behavior tests, so that they can get indication that their hypotheses are likely to be verified. As a result, they are left with unsettling numbers and variety of lists of skills and sub-skills. In fact, on the review of related literature of the reading skills, they have noted that there are inconsistencies among the proposed list of skills. They pointed out that although no two lists of reading skills are identical, casual inspection suggests that the skills might be grouped roughly into language related skills, or should I say the guessing of meaning of unknown words, and the reason related skills, which is means identifying the main idea. So if we accept the latter definition of observable or behavior, it excludes so-called mental skills such as inferencing and identifying the main idea that we often see in educational literature and curricula. These mental skills are supposed to be part of the higher order skills that are considered vital in the education. Let us now move on to the notion of strategy. The accepted definition of strategy is that language learning strategies can be defined as thoughts and action consciously selected by learners to assist them in the learning and using language in general and in the completion of specific language tasks. Also, Cohen implies that there are learning strategies to facilitate language learning, and there are communication strategies to facilitate the communication. So basically, it's all about this slide is all about the strategy on how is the learners going to um, facilitate their learning. To further understand, let us now differentiate the skills and strategies. Terminological inconsistency was noted regarding skills and strategies. Each term was often not used consistently, and sometimes they were used interchangeably. In order to clarify the confusions regarding various definitions of reading skills and strategies, so they have conducted a thorough analysis of the publication by various authoritative organizations and historical influential literature. They provide the history of how the terms skills and strategies have been defined and developed in the various disciplines based on their investigation. They describe the defining differences between skills and strategies in relation to reading. In reading skills, they said that it is automatic action that results in decoding and comprehension with speed, efficiency, and fluency, and usually it occurs without awareness of the components or control evolved. The reader's deliberate control, goal-directedness, and awareness define a strategic action. Did you get it? Okay. So to continue the explanation, let me give you an example. Suppose a student determines he or she has only vague understanding of a paragraph. As he or she reaches the end of it, the student wants to do something to clarify his or her comprehension. So the student slows down and asks, "Does this make sense?" After every sentence, this is a strategy, a deliberate, conscious, metacognitive act. The strategy is prompted by the student's vague feelings of poor comprehension, and it characterized by a slower rate of reading and deliberate act of self-questioning that serve the student's goal of monitoring and building better comprehension. Now, imagine that the strategy works and the student continues to use it throughout the school year. With months of practice, the strategy requires less deliberately attention and the student uses it more quickly and more efficiently. When it becomes effortless and automatic, the student is in the habit of asking, "Does it make sense?" Or automatically, the reading strategy has become reading skill. In this development, in this developmental example, skill and strategy differ in the intentionality and their automatic and non-automatic status. So, is it clear? The example? Did you get it? Okay. If you follow the argument, skimming is reading a text quickly to get an overall idea. Can be called a skill if the person does it automatically without any effort. Those who are not used to the idea may use a skimming strategy consciously in a purposeful way. Skimming is an action. Therefore, it counts as a skill if you follow the definition by Richard and Rogers. Note that here if we subscribe to other definition of skills as acquired mental abilities, the behavioral nature of skimming may be categorized as a strategy and not a skill. No wonder confusion between skills and strategy persists. As a future educator, how are we going to teach skills and strategies? how can skills be taught? If we choose to define skill as an acquired ability, there are questions that follows. Can abilities such as listening skill be taught in the first place? Or even if we concede that a new ability can be taught, should an ability be separated into sub-skills that are then taught separately? Or is skill a unitary phenomenon? If we choose then to define skills as behavior or action with fitness, what kind of controlled practice will help beginners to develop the ability to manage actions or behaviors like expert users of the target language? But then, despite of the fact that there were no clear agreements in relation to the definition of value of teaching discrete language skills and strategies, not till 1985 suggests that it is still possible to promote reading skills and strategies. It is just that it is largely a matter of faith, but the number of materials produced shows that it is faith widely held. The typical procedures for teaching skills and strategies seem to involve a phase in which explicit teaching of a specific skill or strategy takes place, followed by practice. Then, the implicit assumption regarding the learning process seems to be the conscious practice will eventually transfer to become subconscious skill. Also, Littlewood proposed a skill learning model, which he claims to be compatible with the communicative language approach, which had both a cognitive and behavioral aspect. In cognitive aspect, it involves the internalization of plans for creating appropriate behavior. For language use, these plans derive mainly from the language system. And that language system, they include grammatical rules, vocabularies, and social convention governing speech. Then, the behavioral aspect involves the automation of these plans so they can be converted into fluent performance in real time, and this occurs mainly through practice in converting plans into performance. As we go further, though we have doubts about the value of skills and of strategy training, despite including such training in some of the course book, we do acknowledge that teaching easily applied communication strategies such as coining, circumlocution, and asking for help whilst communicating can be useful. So how are we going to teach the language? Though influential, the communicative approach is a learning language successfully comes through having to communicate real meaning. In this area, in fact, learning about learning and strategy training could take away the time in the curriculum in which the learners actually spend time listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Skills teaching of the four modes of communication still continues to feature though alongside grammar and the Lexis syllabuses. Note that due to logistical reason, listening and speaking tend not to be tested in many country-level high-stake examination. And also, this has caused a negative washback effect on local courses or course books and on classroom in such countries, especially in EFL situation. The headings of these sections mentions language teaching. Our main concern is how learners can learn best to become able to listen, speak, read, and write in a target language and how materials can facilitate such learning process. Okay, class, be reminded of our class graffiti. You're going to send it via messenger through our group chat. And lastly, of course, your icon only Venn diagram. You're going to send it through our GC also. And for our IFVL, our key text can be found in Matthew 25, verse 21. It says that, "Well done, good and trustworthy servant, since you have been trustworthy with a small amount, I'll put you in charge of a large amount. Come and share your master's joy." It is about the parable of talents, where they have given a chance to use it. Only one utilize the given talents and it multiplies. So the same thing with us. Let us utilize the given talents we have and develop the skills we can, so that the Lord won't take it away from us. God bless everyone. Do you have any questions regarding in our lesson? You can now ask questions. If none, that's all for today. Thank you.